Here's another example of graphing an inverse variation, but this time we have an inverse variation with a horizontal and vertical translation on the graph. Meaning, in layman's terms, your function is moving, right? So we talked about right here that you have 6 over x, which is very similar to what we just did on the previous video of 12 over x, where we found our table of values. But now we have this minus 4 and this minus 2. Remember that all that does is that takes that graph of y equals 6 over x and it shifts it on the graph. So what you can do is you can make a table of values for 6 over x just like you normally do, knowing that the points 1, 6 and 6, 1 will be there, knowing that the negative versions of those points, negative 6, negative 1, and negative 1, negative 6 will be there, and then knowing that you will also have the points like 2, 3, and 3, 2, factors of 6. And then negative 3, negative 2, and negative 2, negative 3, the negative versions. So again, very, very quickly you have 8 points automatically on that graph. But then what you're going to do is you're going to take that minus 4 and that minus 2, and they are going to take these points and shift them on the graph horizontally and vertically. We've been talking about this concept of a translation of a graph all year long. We have used it many, many times with many, many different functions that we've learned this year. So it is a reoccurring theme throughout all the functions. So when we do our big function review test later, that's going to be something that you will want to remember for all of the functions that we've talked about. So how do they move them? How do these two numbers move the graph? This one always moves it the opposite, and this one always moves it the same. We've kind of shortened that throughout the year and said opposite, same, opposite, same, opposite, same. But what we mean is that this is going to shift it horizontally, the opposite of what it looks like. This one is going to shift the entire graph vertically, exactly what it says. So what is the opposite of minus 4? It's plus 4. So it's going to move the graph to the right 4 spaces. That is what this one is going to do. This one here is going to move it the same, so it's going to move it vertically down 2 spaces. So if you were to look at these points, negative 6, negative 1 is here, negative 3, negative 2 is here, negative 2, negative 3 is here, and negative 1, negative 6 is here. And then you have on this other side 1, 6 here, 2, 3, 3, 2, and 6, 1. If you were to take these points and move them right 4 and down 2, it would shift your entire graph over right 4 and down 2 spaces. But remember, we had this vertical asymptote and this horizontal asymptote, and we made the joke in class about you moving your asymptotes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all these points and move them right 4 and then down 2. You're going to have to be careful because that's going to be the same point. Right 4 and then down 2. Remember, this one was already there, right 4 and down 2. And this one, right 4 and down 2. So we move all of our points, right 4 and down 2. We do the same thing over here, right 4, down 2, right 4, down 2. Remember, that's one of the points. Right 4 and down 2, sorry about that. And then this one, remember, was one of the original points, right 4 and down 2. So we move our entire graph right 4 spaces and down 2. But notice that kind of jacks up where our graph used to be, and we had our asymptotes really nice on the x-axis and the y-axis. We had our really nice asymptotes. Now here, we've got to take them and move our asymptotes. If we move right 4, then there is going to be a vertical asymptote at negative, or positive 4, excuse me, this time, instead of on the axis, because you cannot plug in 4 on the bottom of that fraction. If you plug in 4, it'll be 4 minus 4, which is 0 on the bottom of the fraction. And then your horizontal asymptote is going to be moving from down here, from the axis, down 2 spaces to negative 2, because it moves the whole graph right 4 and down 2. So your new vertical asymptote is here, and your new horizontal asymptote is here. Then you do the same thing we did on the other one. we connect our dots and make our curves. So this graph is no different. It's just been moved right 4 spaces and down 2. So as long as you know what this number and this number moves it, you can use the 6 over x, real simple points, and move them across the graph.